If you drive into a major Australian city regularly, especially Sydney, there's a good chance you're paying more to use the road than almost anyone else in the world. That may sound dramatic, but it's the reality for millions of Australians who've watched toll costs climb steadily over the years while their travel options have narrowed. Sydney, in particular, has quietly become the toll capital of the world. According to Infrastructure Partnerships Australia, it has more tolled roads than any other city globally. For many commuters, especially those in the western suburbs, there's no practical way into the city without going through at least 2 or 3 toll points. It's not unusual for a regular work commute to cost upwards of $25 per day in tolls alone. That adds up to more than $6,000 a year on infrastructure that taxpayers helped fund, only to be charged again to use it. This situation didn't happen overnight. It's the result of decades of policy decisions that leaned heavily on private sector partnerships to fund infrastructure. Beginning in the 1990s, governments across Australia began offering long-term contracts to private companies to finance and build roads in exchange for the ability to collect tolls. The thinking was that this approach would speed up development, reduce the burden on public budgets, and provide users with faster routes. In theory, it sounds like a reasonable trade-off, but in practice, it's led to a system where toll road operators have enormous power, little competition, and contracts that allow them to raise prices every year, sometimes even faster than inflation. One company in particular, Transurban, now dominates the landscape. They control 21 out of Australia's 22 toll roads. That kind of dominance largely means they're literally the system. Transurban's toll roads operate in Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane with multi-decade contracts that hand them control over key transport corridors. Many of these contracts include clauses that allow tolls to increase annually by either the consumer price index or a fixed percentage, often around 4%, whichever is higher. That means even if traffic levels drop, even if maintenance costs stay the same, the price of using the road still goes up. It's a setup that guarantees steady growth for shareholders but steadily rising costs for drivers. The result is a tolling system that functions more like a long-term financial product than a piece of public infrastructure. Once a road is built, it becomes a revenue stream, one that's expected to deliver returns for decades. For example, Transurban's financial reports show consistent revenue growth year after year, driven mostly by toll increases rather than higher traffic volume. In the 2023 financial year, the company pulled in more than $4 billion in revenue, and about 80% of that came directly from toll collections. Meanwhile, the public has little choice but to keep paying. In Sydney, many of the city's major routes, the M2, M4, M5, M7, M8, and the North Connects Tunnel, are tolled. These roads are in many cases the only realistic routes available. If you want to avoid tolls, your alternatives are often way longer, slower, and more congested. For someone commuting from Blacktown to the CBD, the toll roads can save 30 to 40 minutes each way. But that time comes at a significant financial cost, one that many simply can't afford. Part of the issue lies in how Sydney's transport network has developed. Over the years, toll roads have become central to the city's growth, often built ahead of, or instead of, comprehensive public alternatives. While there's no rule forcing drivers to use them, the lack of equally efficient free options leaves many people feeling cornered. Public transport has expanded over the last decade, especially with new metro lines and upgrades to existing rail, but reliability remains a challenge. Delays and service disruptions are still common enough that for many commuters, especially those with tight schedules or jobs that require precise timing, public transport doesn't feel like a dependable alternative. If you're traveling from the outer suburbs, the toll road isn't a luxury, but a necessity. That reliance creates a cycle where tolled routes carry more and more of the city's traffic, while the slower alternatives fall further behind in investment and usability. Unsurprisingly, public frustration is growing. Drivers are sharing horror stories about toll bills spiraling out of control. One Sydney resident reported spending over $120 in tolls during a single weekend just by driving to visit family and run errands. Others have admitted to deliberately avoiding social plans or turning down job opportunities that would require them to use tolled roads. The political response so far has been mixed. Some state governments have introduced temporary rebate schemes to help offset toll costs for frequent users, especially tradies and delivery drivers. But these rebates often come with strict eligibility requirements and short timelines. They also don't address the root of the issue: the fact that long-term contracts with built-in toll increases are still being signed. In many cases, new toll roads are added to the network with similar terms, effectively extending the life of the system instead of reforming it. The long-term outlook isn't encouraging either. As more major infrastructure projects are built, like Sydney's WestConnex or Melbourne's Westgate Tunnel, they're often rolled into existing tolling networks with similar revenue models. This allows operators like Transurban to expand their control even further while locking in additional years of income. The structure of these deals means governments often trade short-term budget relief for long-term costs imposed on drivers. And Australia's toll roads aren't just expensive by local standards, they're costly on a global scale. In many other countries, tolls are used more strategically and far less intrusively in daily life. Germany, for instance, doesn't charge regular drivers at all. Only heavy freight vehicles pay road tolls. In France and Japan, tolls are common on long-distance highways between cities, but city commuting routes typically remain free. The United States does have toll roads, but the structure is very different. Most toll roads are designed for regional or interstate travel, and urban drivers almost always have access to free alternatives. In fact, many tolls in the US are limited to express lanes that run alongside regular untolled highways. Drivers can choose to pay for a faster trip, but they're not forced into a toll just to get to work. That kind of flexibility is exactly what's missing in Australia's major cities, especially Sydney, where the most direct and time-efficient routes are tolled from end to end with few or no viable free alternatives. The idea of spending $25 to $30 every day simply to commute within a single metro area is nearly unheard of in most other countries. Yet in Australia, that level of cost is not only accepted, it's legally protected. Because many of these deals were signed decades ago, they include ironclad clauses that make it difficult, and sometimes impossible, for governments to revise them without triggering massive compensation payouts. That leaves little room for flexibility, even if public sentiment turns sharply against the model. So, where do we go from here? There's no easy fix. Buying back toll roads would be politically risky and financially massive. Renegotiating contracts mid-term could open the door to legal challenges that governments would likely lose. But future deals can and must be different. That means ending capping annual price increases, shortening the length of contracts, and demanding transparency about how toll revenues are spent. If companies are collecting billions from drivers every year, the public has a right to know how that money is being used. There's also a broader shift that needs to happen in how we think about transport infrastructure. If roads are essential public goods, they shouldn't be treated primarily as investment vehicles. And if tolls are going to be part of the system, they need to be balanced with strong, affordable alternatives, like public transport, park and ride options, or even subsidized carpooling. To be fair, public transport in cities like Sydney has seen meaningful improvements in the last decade, including the rollout of the metro, upgrades to heavy rail, and expanded bus corridors. But in many outer suburbs, the same areas most reliant on toll roads, services are still patchy, underconnected, or slow. So while progress is happening, the current network still leaves many drivers with two unappealing choices: pay the toll or lose time taking the long way around. Australians aren't against paying for infrastructure. Most people understand that roads, tunnels, and bridges cost money to build and maintain, but they also expect fairness. What we have now is a system that locks them in and raises the price year after year, often without delivering noticeable improvements. It feels less like a user pays system and more like a trap with a digital toll tag. The irony is that the people most affected by tolls are often those with the fewest choices. If you live close to the CBD, chances are you've got decent public transport and shorter driving distances. But if you're out west or south of the city, where housing is more affordable, you're more likely to rely on tolled roads for everything. If nothing changes, the costs will continue to rise, the contracts will keep rolling over, and more of the country's transport network will fall under private control. But if there's enough pressure, public, political, and financial, there's a chance to rethink how tolling works in Australia. The road ahead doesn't have to be a dead end. But what do you think? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below and let's discuss. And if you enjoyed this story, give us a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and don't forget to ring that bell so you never miss out on more deep dives like this. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, stay curious.